17th, and we are at WLVS Listen Mission radio station right across from Howard University. Happy to see all you guys, and welcome my co-host, the lovely, the beautiful, the 26-year-old aunt of mine, Crystal Mojica. Yay!
Hi, everybody.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me tonight. We're really excited to be here for the first time ever.
I know.
On Talking with Theresa.
I'm talking with Theresa. And we're like Latinas, so obviously we're late.
Yes,
we're late.
We're running on Puerto Rican time.
We're running on Puerto
apologies.
Rican, Colombian, just like don't give a fuck time.
Yeah.
No, seriously though, I was just at the DC Draft House, and Ginny Tillery put together a great show called Lawyers of Laughter, and it was a really good time, and I performed on that, so that was super fun.
She did amazing, by the way. Me and my roommate both came over, and we were laughing our asses off.
They were laughing.
Recorded everything. It was. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Oh
we
yeah,
had a great time.
It was funny too because I was joking about her sister.
Yeah.
So
I'm not the 26-year-old.
She's not the 26-year-old aunt that got engaged. So like.
I'm the lesbian one who's still very much single.
But she's single. But you know what, though? Like, you're the only one in the family who took my advice.
Yeah, I mean, how could I not? Like, I went to your dorm at Cornell when you were in grad school, and I saw you living your best life, and I was like, I want that.
Yeah,
so
but, like, she was the only one, because I was always, like, telling my family members, I'm like, listen, you're never in life going to get a chance to travel the way you will, like, in school. So, like, get all your traveling done now. Like, that's what I regret. I regret all the semesters I didn't take. I regret the time that I didn't go to London for a semester in law school because of a boy. So I was like, never do that. Like, never, like, not do something because of, like, love or whatever. Because that shit fades, but memories of trips will live on forever.
You know what? You're right. And I did take that advice.
Yeah.
So I think back in the day, you used to call me Carmen Sandiego, and you might as well call me that because I kind of took your advice and
she travels everywhere. But you did, how long were you in the Peace Corps? What was your deal with the Peace Corps?
I did a 2-year service in the Peace Corps, 2 years and 3 months total in rural Paraguay.
And what were you doing there while you were doing that?
I was working in community health. So this would mean that I would work with health posts in these rural areas that really needed this type of support. I had worked with contraceptive brands in the past for reproductive health here in the States, and I had that experience. I wanted to have a more genuine experience of actually being there with people and meeting fellow Latinos, especially people who are part of marginalized communities who need that help. And so that's how I got involved with the Peace Corps in the first place.
Yay! Yeah. And so when did you finish? Like recently?
Yeah, this was 3 months ago.
Yeah, so she's just off the Peace Corps, like doing her business from Paraguay, and now you are working at Greenpeace.
I am.
So what are you doing at Greenpeace?
My formal title is Senior Communications Specialist at Greenpeace.
Latinas be like, oh, senior. We're senior. That's the right bitch.
Reparations. Where they at? But no, I mean, it's definitely been really amazing to be part of the environmental justice movement after having been in Paraguay for 2 years and seeing that sort of environment firsthand. I mean, Paraguay and a lot of the southern tip of South America is heavily deforested, and a lot of people are not fully aware of what's happening.
Right.
And part of my drive to get into environmental justice in the first place was because I was able to see this, and I absolutely love it. I work on the oceans and forest campaigns.
Oh, very cool. That's exciting. Yeah. And plus, I feel like there was something I read not too long ago that was saying that obesity in like Mexico and South and Central America is increasing because one of the jobs that's available to like the indigenous people now are like pushing like Nestle carts. Or like, I
didn't hear that.
Yeah. So apparently like because in America, people are now on like the whole organic, healthy eating tip, they've had to like branch out. And so now one of the ways to like make money is to like push these carts like that sell people like all the kinds of junk food that they normally wouldn't have access to. So it's like increasing obesity in like South, Central America and Africa, like different parts of Africa. And so it's like consumerism and capitalism just keep spreading like a virus.
No, I think the rich now are all on diets and only eat vegan.
Yeah.
And while the rest of people who don't have access to these resources are being fed junk. And that's definitely on purpose.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And plus, it's like, even in cities, right? So I moved from New York to DC 3 years ago, and I live in Shaw, and like on top of a giant. And so, but I realized that like the neighborhood that I'm in is still in the process of gentrification, and I have not yet been able really to find like really quality produce. Like if I want to go like really get like everyone in my building orders online, like from like HelloFresh or something like that. Or like I'll walk to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or something. But not everyone can afford to do that. But I'm looking at like we have all green bananas but it's like Starbucks has yellow bananas like right there. Like across, so you know what I mean? So it's like it's just like you are constantly aware of like these ever increasing disparities in like how different communities are treated, particularly in DC, because every quadrant is getting gentrified simultaneously.
Yeah. I mean, I just moved to Petworth.
Petworth.
And that's an area that I feel like my roommates have described it to me like 2-3 years ago. You would never see a white person hopping onto that subway or that metro. Sorry, still getting used to getting back to the United States, and I'm from New York originally. And yeah, no, that was just like never the case before. And nowadays, it's every young professional, myself included, who are part of this conversation now are part of like this like environment that we are like overtaking, gentrifying Petworth, but I love it. And I think it's got so much character. It's got a lot of those like really like sort of like prolific or like really like interesting places that you would think of about DC.
Yeah.
But also, happy hours.
Yeah, DC people love to drink, I will say. But it's so funny that you say that about the subway, because one of my girlfriends, like, she was visiting. Actually, she was applying for a job. She's a New Yorker through and through, and she gave me so much shit because I accidentally referred to the New York subway as the Metro.
How dare you?
And she was like, you have been in DC way too long. How dare you say Metro? Like, you're not from the tri-state. And I'm like, okay, but, I'm also one of those people, like, whose accent will change. Like really? Depending on where I am. Yes. And my brother is like that. You should talk to Danny. He's got the craziest Southern accent. But like, we're born and raised in Jersey, but he spent, I think at this point, more than half his life in the South, or at least like almost, because he went to college in Virginia, VMI. And then after that, he's been stationed in Virginia, Florida, Louisiana, Texas. Only once he was stationed in New York. So now, every now and then when he gets pissed, like, you hear a twang.
Twang? I've
never heard of that. And then, like, you'll hear him, like, playing, like, country music. And he's like, this shit is really good, Sarah. And I'm like, okay.
Actually, you know what? I will say that after 2 years in the Peace Corps and spending time with a lot of white people, I get the draw of country music. I used to be that person that was
on the radio, on
that
the
was
TV.
So... Yeah. You're fine. We got to do that. This like heat and this humidity in DC is not great.
It's not good.
But I was so militantly against country music, and I was like, yeah, fuck that. I will never understand it. That's like the worst thing ever. All they talk about is women and trucks and beer, and I will never understand. I went to rural Paraguay, and all of a sudden it's like, I fucking get it. Like, I want to ride my truck on like a winding road. And all I want to do is meet my girl,
She's like, suddenly it's relatable, You just got to go to like...
Yeah, you got to go to the middle of nowhere and like stare at a wall a couple times and you'd be like, I get it.
That's hilarious. That's so funny. But yeah, no, it was funny because like I would be in upstate New York in law school. Right. And they used to have shuttles from like different buildings to get to campus in the winter. And like... it would be winter and like we're in like -10 and the van driver would be like, how like when you sing you're like super into it and you're like feeling yourself, and it would always be like some like Faith like Hill song that the dude was like really into, like, oh yeah, like I can't,
you did me wrong.
Yeah. He was like, or like Shania Twain. I'm like, wait a minute. He's like this big,
I feel
butch,
like a
burly
woman.
guy. Yeah, like this big, butch, burly guy, and like we were driving this shit that has like chains on the tires. Like it's like the real rugged.
I love that. I mean, like busting stereotypes. Like, hello, gender's a social construct. So
yeah,
that's amazing.
But it was hilarious. But like we're talking about like, how old was I? 2004. Yeah, so it was a minute ago. I don't really even like talking about how long shit's been anymore. Like I'm very bitter. Not bitter, but it's like. She's like, I'm like, just learn from everything that I've done. Like, she's 26. Like, if I could do it all over again.
I'm absorbing it all. Do not worry.
Yeah. Just live vicariously through my mistakes and like do as I say, not as I did.
I will do the lesbian version of it.
Yeah. But the one thing that you did that was also really cool, Crystal spent a semester in Nice.
I did, yes.
And I spent a summer in Nice. I think around like when we were like the same age.
Yeah, I was 20.
Yeah, I was 20, and the twins, like we have an aunt who's got twins, and they had just been born, and then I went to Nice, and so like she was posting her pictures like from her trip to Nice, like when she was 20, and I'm like having all these flashbacks, and I'm like, oh my god, the circle of life. Like you were my little Simba. I was like, oh my god, I've sent her out into the world, and now she's walking in Nice and like, you know, like on the beach and going to like Cannes, and I was like all sad and shit. I'm like, I want to get on a plane.
I mean, let's go right now.
On a time machine. I know. Yeah, but that was fun. So that's cool. And what else is going on? So now you've been in DC for 3 months.
Yes, just about 3 months. Oh, God. I can't believe that. Time is like really...
Time is flying. It's already mid-July.
Fuck.
Which is kind of insane to me. But so what was the other thing I was going to say? So you've been here for 3 months, and then last month was Pride Month.
Yes, it was.
So, like, we didn't prepare with any pictures, but tell us about, like, what you did for Pride. Because I know, like, you went... Where did you go? You were out of town.
I went to Boston Pride, and I also went to New York City Pride.
Okay.
You know...
Did you like one city's vibe more than the other?
New York City, hands fucking down, because, I'm from North Jersey originally, and I lived in New York for a period of my life, and I fucking loved it. And because I got to see my friends, I got to drink, you know, like... firecrackers or nutcrackers, as we like to call them, which I don't know for you, like DC folk who might not know what that is.
First of all, I've been here 3 years. Okay, she's like, I thought she was gonna say old, and I was like, I was about to be like really pissy. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about right now? But
so nutcrackers are these like super fruity juices mixed with like Everclear that they sell on the side of the street, and for $10 you can get yourself, you know, really drunk on a budget, which is really great. And so I
just like you can get totally wasted
on a budget.
Yeah.
And so I went with like a big group of us, and we all participated in the nutcracker drinking, and we had a really good time.
That's funny.
I didn't make it to the after party though because I walked the parade with Peace Corps. So I was pretty exhausted by that point. I was like, I cannot go on. I'm going to bed. So all these ladies can just take a break for the night from my obnoxious ass. So,
right. Yeah. That's cool, though. I mean, I'm not really a parade person, only because I don't like crowds. So that's kind of a big deal.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think that, you know.
Yeah, no. I don't
you
like...
got a show with, you know.
I don't like crowds. But the thing is, like, when I do a show, there's distance. You know, like, I'm on stage. You guys are over there. I'm like, stay there. But, like, every now and then, like, for Thanksgiving, like, I would find, like, a good corner. And, like, we could watch the floats. And then, like, I'd peace out. But I'm not really, like, a crowd person.
Okay.
So, but I was, like, envious of that. Because she's, like, in the middle of the street with, like, this big-ass flag. Like, yeah!
Yeah, I was waving the Paraguayan flag around.
Yeah.
Which is something I would never do in actual rural Paraguay. Because this is not a view of the Peace Corps or the U.S. government. And I have to, like, give that disclaimer. But Peace Corps is kind of tough because you are not encouraged to be your most authentic self while you're there. It's 2 years where you are in the closet for the most part, and you are not really allowed out of that closet.
Wow.
So it was really tough. And so coming back, especially because I came back like at such a great time, you know, summer after just like having moved to DC, I was just like, I'm going to partake in every gay activity I can think of. I'm going to go to Aloha, which is a league of their own. Shout outs to them. They're amazing. And I'd like to think that I'm like their most like frequented like patron or
and
like
where
the
is
most
this?
commit. This is in Adams Morgan.
Oh, okay.
And I think
have
they're
to go.
lovely. And if anybody would like to give me a discount, I wouldn't be mad.
Free plug. Yeah.
Wouldn't be mad.
We get, yeah.
But so since I've been back, I've been pretty like open and happy to share my most authentic self with everybody I meet because it's been something that I've been keeping under wraps for a little bit. And yeah, I am out. I'm gay. I'm proud. I'm Latina.
Woohoo!
I'm employed. What's
She's
good?
like, and I'm employed. What, bitches? And she's 26. What? So she's still tight. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my
like,
God.
she's still
That is a myth, by the way. That is a myth. That is a
I'm
myth.
just saying, you know, it's like, you know what, like, so one of my friends called me a fucking old model with low mileage. I was like, that is some shitty. Because I'm like 37, but I'm like, I don't even need like 2 hands to count everybody I've been with.
Oh, God.
And so he's like, oh, so you're great. So he's like, you're like the old model, but with low mileage. You know, it's like she could still ride a really long
Dude,
time.
that is okay. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for the person who said this to you, and I'm sorry that you had to like go through that.
But
Because
it was
that
funny.
is a myth, and that's not true.
Every time they call, it's like funny. But yeah, I'm always like getting shit. Because my brother and I have different dads. So that's like the thing. So like on his father's side, he's got brothers, but they're like my brothers. So my brother Jose was like, what the fuck else did he say? He was like, he said that. He's like, I'm an old model with like low mileage. And then he was like, oh, he's like, you better hurry up and have a kid before they end up to be retarded. And I was like, thanks.
Oh my God, that is problematic.
Like there's like so many issues with that shit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know, I love when you call because suddenly, you know, it just is such an ego boost. I'm just being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's interesting because like, you know, I always joke on stage and my mom like has been wanting grandkids for a long time. And what I mean by that was like when I was at your exact age and I had just broken up with my then boyfriend, her reaction was like, I'm so devastated. Why don't you freeze your eggs?
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Or she was like, or get a sperm donor. And I'm like, oh, 26? Like, that's what you want for your future is like a sperm fucking donor baby, like grandbaby? And she's like, but I just want to see them while they're still like, while I'm still young. Mind you, she just turned 60. So this is like,
very young.
So she was 50 at the time, talking about like, I want a grandkid while I'm young.
Dude, my mom's 65.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. So anyway, societal pressure.
It's bullshit.
It's a lovely thing. But like I said, like I was talking to you earlier, and then I'm like, I'm talking to all my friends who have kids, and I'm like, I've never seen such regret. Like I've just never seen such like deep sadness in like so many people. And I know people love their kids because I love my cousins, I love you guys, and it's like I get that part, but like I really feel like a lot of people get into it because it's good. They think it's gonna like help a relationship. Or like they don't want to miss out and they don't want to always wonder, and then they like realize, oh shit, everything was fine, kind of the way they were. Just from the people that I talk to. Like I'm sure there are people who are like born to be parents, and that's a great thing. But yeah, so that's like one of the things at my age, and I'm kind of like, okay, well, you know, if it doesn't work out, I'm okay with that because look at all the miserable people around me. I think I'll be.
But I can't believe that your mom said that while
yeah.
you were 26.
26. First thing she was like, we were in a fucking supermarket parking lot and we were looking for parking, so the car was moving fairly slowly. So I literally jumped out of a moving car. I was that pissed.
Dude.
I opened the door while she was parking and I just like jumped out and like started walking inside. But yeah, because she was like, have you ever thought of a sperm donor?
At 26, if my mom ever said that to me, I'd be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. But
you got the money to fucking do that?
Exactly.
Like, you want to help me?
Exactly. Because that shit is so fucking expensive. It's ridiculous. But then I looked at it and I was like, okay, if I had done like the thing with freezing your eggs, did you know that your eggs have a shelf life of only 10 years?
I mean, that's a long time.
But it's 10 years. But okay, but if I had gotten my eggs frozen when I was 26, I'm 37, I'm still not like with anybody, the fucking eggs would have been like expiring on the shelf, you know, like when you open the carton, like all the shit's cracked and fucked up. And I'm like, and then I paid like money for this, you know? So I'm like, I'm glad that I didn't like.
I'm glad you didn't either.
Yeah.
Because now we get to be here and shoot the shit. And not have to worry about you changing diapers later.
Yeah, no, that's not. Yeah. And then that's the other part too, because I'm 37. I'm going to be 38, obviously, but like in 6 months. And I remember when our like cousins were born.
I remember too. I was there.
I was 20. And I remember the fucking level of energy that I used to have to like chase twins around the house. And like the stay-at-home moms at the park used to look at me with such rage because I would be able to keep up and like swing and do all this stuff. But they were like in their 30s and they were like, and like this one kid was like, Mommy, why can't you push me the way she's pushing me? And like, but now I would be that mom looking like with horror and like rage at like the 20-year-old who's able to like
Is that how
bounce
you're
around.
Me?
No. I'm saying like in terms of like being able to like energetically care for your children.
Yes. I'm not chasing
like,
anybody else.
I don't really feel like being like 30 because it takes a year to make one, more or less, right? So realistically, we're looking at me being 40 with a newborn. I'm just kind of like,
You know what? It can be done. My mom's second cousin in Colombia had her child at 40. And yeah, even though he's like scarily spoiled and forever stuck on his iPad now, she loves him to death. And I think, I mean, if that's something you ever wanted to do.
Yeah, well, you never know how life will turn out. So I would never say never to anything, but I will just say it's just not an appealing thing at this point. Because the other thing is that I'm just feeling like I'm just starting to like get into my own comfort zone and like setting boundaries. Boundaries. Hispanics and boundaries.
We don't know what they are.
It's like, what is that? ¿Qué es eso? Dame la bochinche.
Accurate.
Yeah, and bochinche, for those who don't know, is Spanish for gossip.
Yeah,
and like
even
if it's like from your own family, like you take glee in other people's suffering. Like, oh, ¿qué pasó? Dime la bochinche.
Yeah. I think we're kind of like witches. Like we kind of like thrive off of people's like misfortunes. We're like, oh,
like misery loves company, and we're definitely like all about it. Like, yeah. So I've been doing comedy now for 3 years. And then like
so amazing.
One of my bits that you saw tonight was talking about like the difference between the law and comedy and how people communicate with each other. Because in the law, like you have to think that everything that you write is going to become an exhibit. You have to anticipate that everything that you write is eventually going to be seen by a judge or a jury. Because when you do things like document review for a big case, like you get access to all these different email servers. And so people see everything, right? And so like when you're a lawyer and like guys are pissed, they're like, oh, per my last request, this is the third and final time before I'm going to take this matter before the judge. And then in comedy, they're like, oh my God, that bitch is sucking dick for stage time. And then it was like, at first, it was one of those things where I was like so insulted because I was like, I am an Ivy League educated 6-figure earning lawyer. Like, in
yes, you are, bitch.
In what world am I sucking dick for like stage time at like the sticky bars? You know what I mean? Like the bars are like your feet are like going like this when you're walking. And so I got like defensive, but now I think it's funny.
It's fucking hilarious. Is how would they ever think that this would like diminish your confidence in your power? Like that's what they're trying to do in the fucking first place.
Yeah, I know.
They're trying to like be like, okay, you're an Ivy League educated lawyer. Let me like put you down like this fucking notch and like tell you what your place is supposed to be. But you know what? Fuck that.
Fuck that.
You're killing it.
I am.
So what the fuck?
I know.
Ain't no need to fucking waste time.
But they were like, come down to our level, would you please? And then I dipped down there and I was like, I'm okay.
Looks sticky.
It does look sticky. And it's probably because they're jerking off to each other so much. But, so I like to talk shit. But, so let's get serious for a moment. We've got a new segment that I started called The Real Woke Files. We're going to put that up, the little sign for that real quick. Little Real Woke Files. The Real Woke Files. And, like, during this segment, what I like to do is kind of just talk to like the audience about like serious issues going on in the community, but also like ways that they can help. And obviously the big thing this week is the ICE raids that Trump announced, were going to be happening. And I will say that I've been doing some research, and apparently like the undocumented community is getting ripped off in so many different ways, but by their own members, because apparently there are people who represent themselves as notarios and who are not lawyers, but I guess like in the countries where like of origin, like that has some kind of like legal meaning, like a notary or something like that. So these people like are not allowed to represent anyone in immigration court. That's what I found out. Because sometimes in immigration court, even if you're not a lawyer, you can apply basically for an exception to represent somebody, because a lot of times, the people who are applying for asylum don't speak English. And so like if they have someone who speaks English and who's like, familiar enough with the law, like you can make an application for an exception. But these people are not allowed because there's such a reputation of them taking like thousands and thousands of dollars and then disappearing with like these people's money. So there's a woman that I'm representing pro bono, and she's originally from El Salvador, and she hired a lawyer, a Jersey lawyer, with an office down here in Virginia, and that dude took $5,000, did like not even the bare minimum. I'm pretty sure that like his secretary or someone filled out the asylum application, left out all these pertinent details, and then when she couldn't come up with an extra grand, he asked the judge to like withdraw from the case. So he took $5,000 and essentially was gonna like send her in front of a judge and a representative from like the DOJ and like to represent herself at this asylum hearing. And so it was only because of like a friend of a friend like heard about this and was like, oh wait, I think my friend's niece is a lawyer, that like somehow it like roped back to me. And I took a look at this and I was like, oh, this doesn't even have like full sentences. It's fucking fragment sentences. And they left out like crazy pertinent details, like the fact that this woman's house had been in the middle of a literal gang war to the point where like her mom had been shot inside her own home and paralyzed.
Oh my gosh.
And those details weren't in the asylum application.
That fucking matters. I mean, you'd think
that
you'd
matters,
want to include that.
Right? And so like the real woke files for this part is just to say, listen, there are a lot of fucking people trying to take advantage, because at the end of the day, like, people just want money. Like, you know, they don't give a fuck about what you're going through. They don't really care about doing the right thing. But there are those people now who are coming out of the woodwork and are basically like leeches on this community, who are like so desperate to hear some kind of good news that they'll just go and pay to, like, you know, a notario or something. It's so bad that it, like, in the immigration practice manual, it's in there. And they're like, the judges are like, yeah, we're seeing it all the time, that these people are like essentially giving up their life savings and then being like abandoned, to the point like the judges are giving, like, they're basically like half judging and half representing the asylum applicant, right? And so it's like this horrible thing. So one thing that the community can do is, you know, go online, look at where, you know, every single place has like some kind of like legal clinic, right? And even like going to a legal clinic, getting like paper documents, going online, looking at things that people who, you know, might have exposure to ICE are going to be subject to. Like, there's nothing wrong with like printing out some papers and, hey, if you see somebody on the street that you think may be like, hand them an ICE flyer in Spanish and just be like, listen, you don't even have to open the door legally. They're not allowed to burst in. You know, like, not a lot of people know that. Or, you know, you can say like, I have a pending case. Sometimes ICE is supposed to leave you alone depending on the circumstances if you have a pending case. And like, that's not really well known either. So my thing would be like, for communities, just to at least become a little bit more knowledgeable. You know, it's not enough to be like, oh my God, it's horrible that these kids are in cages, and now let's move on with our day.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, hearing you talk about this from like a lawyer's perspective is so refreshing. I think a lot of the times, a lot of us like share stuff on social media, and that stuff can be sort of deemed as like, oh, like, but are you really doing anything? Sort of like slacktivism, like you're sitting at your ass not doing anything. But sharing these resources, at the end of the day, if they land on the right hands, are absolutely valuable.
Yeah, and so like that was one of the things. Like, go to like El Salvadorian Mexican restaurants and just be like, hey, you know, you have allies in the community. Yes. You know, like, if we hear about an ICE raid, this is like maybe, you know, a rec center you guys can go to, because the only place ICE is going to go is like the addresses they have on file. And that's a lot of things that people don't realize too, is that most undocumented people are actually registered with ICE, because they, you know, unless you've completely been able to come in like under the radar, most people are like the ones that are currently in cages where, you know, you come in, but you apply for asylum because they can't hold everybody. They'll give you a future date and they make you check in like on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. And then if you stop checking in, that's when you get put on their list and on their radar. So it actually benefits people to register with ICE. And then on another episode, I said that, one thing a lot of people also don't realize is that undocumented people pay federal taxes and state taxes because they either get a tax ID number through their asylum application or they use a fake social security number so that their employer can deduct taxes. So like right now we're having like people like who are paying taxes who have no representation and no like right to vote or anything like that, like working, benefiting our communities, putting money into our communities through labor, restaurants, buying goods, and they're also paying taxes and they're living life with like the threat of deportation at any moment, and so I just think it's more important to rally in real life than it is like, some people like the woman that I'm representing has like a flip phone. She doesn't give a fuck what you're posting on Facebook with respect to like, the conditions are horrible and Trump's an asshole. Like these are people who probably could use some like even friendship and saying like, oh, if you need anything, if you need food, if you need like a hotline number, like here's the legal clinics that you can reach out to. A lot of people are looking for solidarity, and I think people think in the social media world that it's enough to post, like everyone seems to think that like their opinion matters. And so as soon as they post and they get it off their chest, their work is done.
Yeah, it's sort of like that instant gratification, like I've done my part. And I mean, I don't want to completely be on that side that says like, yes, doing that type of activism isn't activism, because in the space that we live in right now and in the world that we live in currently, like that is how most of communication is translated.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying that's
I'm
not the
saying
way that we
don't
should
do that,
right.
but don't just do that.
Exactly. Sometimes it really does take somebody just like taking that initiative and reaching out to the community. And I know that I had seen you sort of like sponsoring some like a refugee child. Is that what you were doing?
So I've done a lot. I've most recently I helped a family. So I'll back up. When you are an undocumented person and sometimes families get split up at the border, and so what happens is that you have like, let's say a 13-year-old going through the border by themselves because they got separated from their parents who like maybe a month later get through the border. And so one thing that happens is that you have parents without legal custody of their kids. And in Virginia state court, there's kind of a new procedure where you can get a parent legal custody of their own child so that, let's say, the father is deported, but the father has custody, and the father's undocumented and the mom's documented. You want to make sure that the mom is the one who's got custody of the kid, so that if the father's deported, the kid still has a legal basis to stay in the U.S. And so that was one of the things we did. It was like an undocumented mom, but her mother had permanent residency status. So I helped them get joint custody of the boy so that if, if she unfortunately got deported, then at least there would be a basis for the kid to stay, like in the U.S. So those are like just some of the issues that can happen. And it's like, it's so complicated because, there's all different kinds of hoops that they make these people go through. And they don't even give you the instructions in English half the time, So you have people who are like working, busting their ass, living in fear, living in like squalid conditions, and just trying to like make ends meet like everyone else. And so I don't really even get what the fucking big deal is. Like, we have a Statue of Liberty. Like, the whole thing is come, people, like, we're bringing you in.
They forgot to add a little side note. Come all you white people. That's what they meant to say.
Yeah, clearly. I really feel like I'm going to start wearing a Make America Great Again hat and just like sit on the corner with it and speak fucking Spanish. I think it's going to blow people's mind.
They exist. They're in Miami.
No, but I'm just going to be like, mira, Trump es un pendejo.
Oh, okay.
Like,
I mean, if you did that.
Like, we got to reclaim it to be like, make America great again, to the point where like, remember when he wasn't president?
Yeah.
Like, let's reclaim this shit. Like, you know, let's make America great again. Let's get rid of this motherfucker. And so I'm going to be like, Trump es un puto. Like, with the Make America Great Again hat. Like, I remember 2012. You know, like, even Bush was better than this shit. I mean, Jesus. It's really... I'm about to move to Canada. That's my plan.
Let's go.
That's my plan. If shit gets, like, Handmaid's Tale bad...
Oh, God. I haven't actually seen this show, but my roommates have described it, and they're like, you need to watch this show. And I'm like, oh,
you don't need to watch it, and here's why. Like, you have to be of strong mind to watch this fucking show.
I
like,
think I could do it. I was pooped out of a squat toilet for 2 years.
I was depressed when I first started watching this show. It did not fucking help. Because essentially, like, the time that we're living in right now is their flashback period. So we're probably, like, in The Handmaid's Tale, we're probably, like, maybe 100 years ahead, let's just say. Or 50. Maybe not even that. But
behind or ahead?
We right now are behind, and they're, like, they're in the future.
Yeah, they're in the future.
Okay. So in the future, it's basically, like, the alt-right took over, completely, like, decimated the government by, like, blowing up buildings and shit. And now we're, like, in an alt-right, like, country where it's like super, 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 super religious, and like everything is, you know, they take the Bible to the nth degree with, like, literally. So, like, in the Bible it says, like, oh, if someone offends thee, like, pluck out their right eye. And so, like, in the fucking show, like, if someone fucks up, they, like, then you come back and the next scene is like their eye is stitched up because their eye has been removed. So it's a really intense show, but it just speaks to the danger of, you know, kind of like what can happen when evil is unchecked.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, that's the fucked up part about this whole situation. I mean, I feel like we're living in a dystopian future that we never were ready for. But at the same time, we are checking Trump. We are standing up and we are saying this, like, enough is fucking enough, and resisting. But at the same token, like, I don't even know how you deal with the fucking news cycle. Like, just on Sunday, that whole spiel, that entire Twitter thread of him saying, go back to your countries, that was fucking heinous.
But that was also so calculated. And that's the thing. This dude is not fucking stupid, because there are two Americas. There are people who were like, that's right, go back to your country. And like one of the think pieces I read was like, he's trying to distract people from the fact that he ran on the platform of, I'm going to have a wall. And I'm going to make Mexico pay for it. You don't get much more go back to your country than that. But since he couldn't accomplish that, so that the political analysts are saying the same way he divided America by saying, let's do the wall, now he's trying to say, well, at least go back to your country. And so that's going to be the next Make America Great Again, like, cycle.
Is go back.
So he basically is, like, laying the foundation for what his next election platform is going to be.
I mean, if that's the benchmark, he's doing great. People are fucking in cages and dying.
And that's what they're saying. And the other part was, like, all the congresswomen who were, like, referred to were saying, oh, this is a distraction, because he's trying to distract from, like, the really important issues and his own, like, political failures, right? And
which are plenty.
But the fucked up thing is that it just keeps working, and that's very aggravating. Yeah. And I don't know why only 4 Republicans were, like, on the, who signed the condemnation of the House, saying, like, his tweets were racist. I can't even believe that that's a fucking thing that the House has to pass. The president's tweet was racist. I don't think the founding fathers ever fucking considered that, like, someone would tweet, like, something, like, it doesn't even make sense that that's something we have to address. I don't even know why it's legal. I have to think about that. I have to think about the constitutionality of the president of the United States telling members of Congress to go back to their countries of origin when their country of origin is the United States. I have to think about that. I have to think about the constitutionality of that. Yeah. Yeah, and there's so many things. Like, we have anti-discrimination laws on the federal books that literally fucking say you can't say shit like that to people in the workplace.
The congresswomen are supposed to be employers of the United States government, right?
Right.
And he is, like, the boss of the United States government, so to speak, right?
Well, there are different branches, so that's the thing. That's the way he gets out of saying they don't work for me, because the different branches are separate.
But it's discrimination.
Right. But if, like, Mitch McConnell had told them to go back to their country, they would have, like, like an employment discrimination type of suit. You know what I mean? Just because like they're all under the same. But it's just very weird that like people are that concerned with like re-election that they're afraid of like a fucking painted orange reality TV show guy who has fake millions, I think. Yeah.
I second that.
Yeah. So that's the real woke files. But meaning to say again, like, we were in a very, very trying time. Everyone's under assault on all different levels. One way that you can do something about it that doesn't really take much is to just even go Google. There's a ton of things. Like Kind Kids in Need of Defense is one organization that's based in here in DC, and that's the one that I previously volunteered with, that assigns pro bono lawyers to help kids who came across the border by themselves. And so if they are undocumented and they're by themselves and they're under the age of 18, Kind is an organization where like lawyers from bigger firms and stuff like that will go and donate their time to help. But so like, you know, have some papers in your car or in your backpack, and if you just happen to see somebody, like give someone like a, hey, this is what you do if ICE shows up at your door flyer. Just something to like start generating some semblance of hope and positivity, because it's also psychological. Like this is also psychological warfare.
Absolutely.
You know?
Frequent, you know, businesses that are owned by people of color.
Right.
Support your community as much as you can. Stand up for whoever is being marginalized. And if you see them, if you see this in action, fucking stand up. If you're a U.S. citizen, you are more than, you know, able to stand up and say,
take video.
Hey, yeah.
If you see shit going down, take a video
don't
with your cell phone.
Don't yell World Star, though.
Yeah, don't yell World Star. We don't want ghetto shit. But we, you know, police officers are public officials and they're in a public space. They can't tell you to stop recording as long as you're not interfering with what they're doing. So as long as you keep like a reasonable distance, you can record things that happen, and like posting that will only help to increase awareness of what's going on. It's not like we can expect much accountability, because I don't know if you saw in the news, like the DOJ decided not to press charges in the Eric Garner case.
Yeah, I did see that. Like
the day before the 5th anniversary of his death, because they said that they couldn't find that he acted, I forget what it was, with malice or just something that it was obvious, because he's on the fucking video choking the dude. So there's no way it didn't meet the standard. But at the end of the day, the DOJ has to do what Trump wants. And I say that with quotes because technically he's not allowed to interfere. But obviously this is a guy who doesn't do shit that he's supposed to do. So it's kind of a clear indication of like the administration priorities, where they're just letting murderers off the hook as long as the murder victim was like someone of color. Because you know what we haven't heard about lately? We haven't heard about the college admission scandal.
Yeah.
That was a big thing, and now it's like petering off into the quiet, and we don't really know what's happening with the really, really rich people who were like, you know, committing wire fraud and mail fraud and, you know, all kinds of shit. So
I mean, when it's got to do with white actresses, nobody gives a shit. I think, Felicity Huffman has like a new Netflix like TV show that's coming out. Like no one's talking about it. Like, that bitch literally should be in jail.
But it was funny because they were like, oh, you know, she was crying at the sentencing. I mean, she's a fucking actress. Of course she's crying. And I'm like, I could cry right now. Like, you did not take much for me to cry. And I'm just like, plus, I'm pretty sure that the people who are getting life sentences for nonviolent offenses, I'm pretty sure they're crying at sentencing too. But it's not like they get cut or break, you know? So there's just a lot going on with our country societally that, you know, it was interesting because, you know, when I was in school and you read about the 60s and the 50s and segregation and all those things, back then when I was in school, you would be like, wow, I wonder what it was like to be alive during that historical time, right? Of like that time of such strife and all this shit. And now I'm like, oh my God, like we're
living it.
We're living in this insane, racist, misogynistic, sexist, like white power society that like I never imagined.
It never went away.
Yeah.
I think it was just like dormant for a little while.
I think it was dormant, but then like, you know, it was funny because Barack Obama had an interview and he said, I think I was 20 years too early. He was like, I think we rushed it and we weren't ready because look at all the backlash. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, you know what? Joe Biden is running for president. He's damn near 80. Obama did rush it because he would have been 60.
Yeah.
He would have been a 60-year-old president if he had just waited 20 years. So Obama's basically like, that's on me, y'all. That's my bad. I got this. That's, my fault. I fucked up because the blowback was Trump.
Right.
So I think Will Smith should run for president. I do. I think he's popular. He's charismatic. He appeals to white people and black people. You can't get much stupider than fucking Donald Trump, so you can only go up from there. And he seems like he would hire people to educate him. He would.
He
seems he seems like the type. Because I remember years ago he was on Oprah and he was like, I've never limited myself in my beliefs of what I can do. And so he said, and that includes be president of the United States.
Whoa.
Look up that Will Smith interview with Oprah. It might have even been like 15 years ago, but he kind of like said it. And now that like a reality star is president of the United States,
dude, anything's possible.
Anyone is like even Oprah's like, I might run, so I think Will Smith, the guy from Independence Day. You know what I'm saying? Like, he saved America on fucking Independence Day. It was a blockbuster. It was amazing. Like, he needs to come and, get us out of this shit and, put dude in, a fucking, rocket and send his ass off.
I wouldn't be mad. He also speaks Spanish.
He speaks Spanish amazingly.
Yeah, and he's a huge fan of Colombia, so.
Yeah, no. By the way, he's got, so his son, Jaden Smith, has a song that I play nonstop.
Icon Living?
Icon Living. Icon. Oh my God.
Icon. That's what it's called.
And
I just
so,
Icon
but
Living.
then fucking Will Smith and his Spanish accent, he just says it he rolls the R's so beautifully. I'm like, oh man, that's the way to do it. Are you
about to blast this shit right now?
Yeah.
Nice.
But I'm because we're that's right. Okay, but we're gonna fast forward to. That's right.
Tequila.
This is live, so
already a fan of this song.
There's not anything. There's no violation of anything because I'm playing this shit right now.
Iconic.
You heard that shit? That's some Spanish accent. Because I hate when people, I hated Justin Bieber's thing.
Oh, the Despacito situation?
On the Despacito. Because he's
no.
It's supposed to be a sexy song, okay? I want to ravish you. Yeah, no. And he sings it like a fucking lullaby. He's like, Despacito. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, everybody was like, are you talking about a burrito? Because I'm hungry. I want that.
Plus, he forgot the fucking lyrics on stage.
Of course he would.
So he was mumbling Spanish. The other one who I didn't really like singing Spanish was Beyonce. I know people think Beyonce could do no wrong, but for me, it was just kind of she didn't get any of the inflections. She just tried to memorize it, and I didn't like that.
I disagree. Beyonce could do no wrong, so I don't know.
No, I'm kind of hesitant to put celebrities on super, super high pedestals. If one more person's oh my God, I bow down to Queen Bee. I'm like, listen, the bitch is from fucking Houston. Let's all calm down. I understand she's pretty and she can sing and she's got a booty and all those, and she's done great things. But let's, relax. Because, her Spanish accent needs work. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
That's I think that's fair.
It is.
So are you coming back?
I mean, I'll be happy to come back when you invite me. So.
Yay! I think I'm gonna co-opt you to be my permanent co-host.
Oh, shut up! I gotta check my schedule.
But I'm so happy that you're in DC.
Me too.
I have family. I have an ally who's intelligent and special and smart and beautiful and charming and wonderful. And she doesn't take no shit.
This is true.
That's right, because we're both North Jersey Latinas.
Yeah, that's kind of her thing.
Yeah, so we're gonna be bad bitches on the street next time, and she's gonna come and be my cheerleader for all my
absolutely
all my comedy
so
shows.
For inviting me and for taking the time to actually get to know who 26-year-old Crystal is. After a while of not talking, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're gonna have a good time.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a lot of fun. It's gonna be a new chapter with 37-year-old niece and her 26-year-old aunt.
Yeah.
And we are a modern American family.
Truly.
Part 2. All right. Well, thank you again for coming. Thanks, everybody who tuned in. And we will be back live next Wednesday. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.